So I want to do this talk today that I think is really important, and I was a little nervous about how it would fit with this audience until I heard Kathleen and Chris in that panel earlier today talking about the user experience, the front-end experience, a lot of people talking about web page test. So I'm a little more optimistic now. What it is I want to talk about is a trend that I've been noticing for the last couple of years that is going to become very important. A lot of you probably know about DevOps. So I'm the co-chair of Velocity, where DevOps was born. We started Velocity 9 years ago, and we intentionally brought together these two groups of people, developers and operations people. And in fact, I asked Tim O'Reilly for the meeting to pitch the idea of Velocity, and he invited a couple other people from my side of the world, performance, and the ops side of the world, and one of those people was Artur Bergman. And I think that was the first time I met Artur. So he's been with Velocity since the very beginning. And we brought these two groups together at Velocity. We thought that there was a lot of crossover between ops folks and developers, and yet the amount of communication that we saw between those two groups was not as high as it could be. And by increasing that, we would create websites, or they would create websites that were stronger, more robust, more scalable, faster. And that's what we wanted to see happen, and that is exactly what's happened. So like I said, Velocity, we're in our 9th year now. In that 2nd year, John Allspaw and Paul Hammond did a talk where the term DevOps was coined from. They didn't exactly use the word DevOps, but they talked about bringing these two tribes together. And so that's been going very, very well. In fact, it's kind of jumped the shark a little bit. I landed in London, I think it was, and I saw this big billboard for a top cloud provider talking about DevOps in the cloud, which I don't think makes any sense. So everyone is using the term DevOps, whether they understand it or not, because it's a good buzzword. About 2 years ago at Velocity New York, I was sitting with Tim Cadlick and Jason Grigsby, and we were talking about how the importance of performance hadn't reached as far as we would like. And we brainstormed and thought a really good thing to carry that message further through the organization would be to work more closely with designers. And we had some ideas of how to make that happen. We started inviting more designery speakers to Velocity. We tried to go out to more conferences as performance people and talk about performance at more designery conferences. And it's really worked. So we're about 1.5 years, 2 years into this movement that I think is going to be very similar to DevOps. It has a lot of parallels. And so really what it's about, just like DevOps, bringing development and operations closer together, it's about bringing developers and designers closer together, and specifically performance people that work in development. Now, I don't know about you. I've worked at several companies. I've worked at some companies where designers and developers, especially the front-end team, sit together. They're co-located. And that usually has really good results. I've also been at companies where designers and developers get along like this, without the pillows. So you're going to have to do better than that, because that's actually the funniest joke in the talk. So you might as well get those chuckles out. It doesn't always work as well as we would hope. And these groups work in silos, and there's a lot of feeling like it's a fixed-sum game. One side's win is the other side's lost. And you don't want to give any ground, right? You don't want to let those high-res images or gradients and drop shadows creep into the implementation of the product, the designers don't want to, and the people who have worked on that design, the product, usability, marketing people, don't want to let go of that design aesthetic that they came up with. And a lot of that is a result of not working together from the outset. So rather than thinking about it as a fixed-sum game, I like to use this yin and yang emblem. They're not opposing forces, they're complementary forces. And working together, just like dev and ops working together, design and development working together is going to produce a better end result. So, how do we make that happen? So I just started this new company, Speed Curve, with my partner, Mark Zeman. We're basically a layer on top of web page test. We store all your results, we give you a historical perspective, time plots of your speed index stats and page sizes and JavaScript sizes. And we give you all of those waterfalls that are so insightful. Kathleen mentioned them earlier. We give you those in different ways automatically to try to really guide you into having more insight into what the user experience feels like. And we're an interesting pair because I've worked on performance for over a decade. Mark's been a designer for over a decade. He's been a creative director, he's run design agencies, he's taught at New Zealand's #1 design university. And so what we're trying to do, no one else in the world is doing, really trying to bring quantified metrics into understanding the user experience. Now, unfortunately, Mark works in New Zealand, so he's not here today. So I'm going to channel a few other designers throughout the talk. I'm going to start with Yesenia Perez-Cruz, who is a career designer, and she's done a talk. You can find, I've got links. Oh, by the way, the link got cut off. You can find the slides on my website, stevesouders.com, and download them. And there's links in there to all of the cited references that I'll go through. So she talks about being a designer and being a little bit reckless when it comes to the ideas of performance or speed from the user's perspective. And she's done beautiful design work, right? But not always so focused on performance. Who here has a 2-minute page load time? If you do, don't raise your hand. All right? Now, was her goal to create a page that took over 2 minutes to load? Was that the team's goal? No. This was something that just came out through a lack of awareness, a lack of communication, a lack of goal setting. And now, perhaps, it's easier to understand the importance of really delivering a fast user experience. Because, mostly through Velocity, but from other channels, there's over 50 or 100 case studies out there that talk about the impact that speed has on user metrics and business metrics. So here's one from a study. It turned out Bing, Yahoo Search, and Google Search all ran the same study where they injected delays in the search result page and measured the impact it had on their business and on users. So you can see Bing took that up to a 2-second delay. All their goodness metrics dropped. Maybe most importantly, revenue per user dropped 4%. Kyle Rush has a great blog post. He also spoke at Velocity. He worked on the Obama campaign. And he did something that's really hard to do. If you work on performance at your companies, you're probably aware of this. You make performance optimizations, they get deployed along with other changes like changing the buttons from red to blue. Business metrics have an uptake and people credit it to the blue button, not the performance optimizations. So he did something where he did performance optimizations, made the site 60% faster, deployed that without any other changes, and saw a 14% uplift in donations. There's a bunch of other case studies like this. If you don't even believe the case studies, Google is going to force our hand quite a bit. 7 years ago, they announced that page speed was going to be part of the AdWords quality score. 5 years, they announced that it was part of PageRank. 2 months ago, they announced that your mobile website speed and design is going to affect your PageRank on mobile search. SEO is a big thing. People want that to happen. You're going to have to make your site run fast and look good